Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. Dr. Joe Salustio here with you again. We record this. It's actual insanity to us when we think that we're approaching now our 400th. Who knows? This may end up being our 400th episode. This might be 405. I don't know, but we're slowly approaching our 400th episode. We've passed 117,000 downloads of this podcast, brought on new sponsors. It's been crazy. We've gotten so much love and support. One pretty cool thing that happened to me, and so many of you responded on LinkedIn, is that I was named a EdTech Top 100 influencer. I mean, who knew I had any influence in the EdTech space? But someone said that podcasting was kind of educational technology, and so I'm going with what that person said. But that was an absolute honor. And then, as we've expanded, we just come into some great relationships with great supporters, and I have one of those great supporters with me today. He's executive director of the Charles Koch Foundation, and his name is Ryan Stowers.
Oh, yeah.
And he's my guest co-host today. Ryan, what's going on?
Just happy to be here, Joe. Congratulations on the recognition and the new sponsorship with Google too. Big week for you guys.
Yeah, we're pretty excited that Google is getting on board with us. It's pretty crazy. Ryan, I don't know if you know this, but your episode is one of our most listened to episodes ever when you were a guest. Can you believe it?
I can't believe it. I think it has more to do with your hosting than my contribution. But again, honored to be a part of all this. You're doing incredible stuff.
Yeah, I think you're supposed to say, absolutely, I can believe it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, of course, it's always an honor to have you now co-hosting with me. We have an incredible guest today. I was thinking about how to introduce him properly because he seems like a really cool guy. I don't know him that well, but I think you do. But I'm going to go with the general standing ovation here. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen. He's executive director of the SkillUp Coalition. His name is Steve Lee. What's happening, Steve?
Hey, welcome, folks. And let me also echo my congratulations, Joe, to you and the team for really the amazing work that you guys do. So kudos to you guys and congrats.
We appreciate it, man. And I'll tell you, I've been doing a little bit of research on you and SkillUp, and this is such a timely conversation that we're going to have about work and about education, and it's sometimes the divergent messaging and sometimes great messaging that comes together. But level set for us, what is SkillUp Coalition? What do you guys do and how do you do it?
Sure. Great question. So I would say first and foremost, we are actually a coalition. I think that matters a lot. In fact, our legal name is actually SkillUp Coalition because we can't do any of the work that we try to do without our partners, including Charles Koch Foundation, others, who have been just incredible thought partners, leaders in the space. And we have the privilege of working with such amazing partners. I think that's actually first and foremost. So I think for SkillUp, what we do, I think we do four things. I think we do the things pretty well. First is we market, right? So we market to America using primarily digital tools, which we all know, or Facebook, Instagram, Google search ads, organic, things of that sort, to show the possibility for Americans of what they could avail themselves on as it relates to careers. And to date, since our launch in July of 2020, we've had over 700,000 users come to skillup.org as a means for them to take the next step into career pathways. I would also say that our target population are those who earn under $40,000 without a college degree. And our job is to upskill them into new opportunities across America. And so the first thing we do, we market to that population. Second is we curate. So when people go to skillup.org, we have a mechanism where they can navigate through a few questions and surface the careers that are most apt to them. And we have identified 35 careers using labor market analysis that we think are the most in-demand, sustainable, career-associating jobs across America. And our technology connects you to one of those careers that are most apt for you as an individual. So it's actually very much a bottoms-up approach. So we identify a career that might be most apt for you. And then third, we connect. We connect either to a training provider, because sometimes you need to take a training class or get a certification. And so we connect you to one of 400 partners that we have vetted that provide training opportunities for you to get skilled into that next job, and then work with you to actually get that job, working with a suite of employers. And then another piece of connection is we also connect to real jobs. So our technology allows us to pull down through some algorithms, API data, basically job boards of jobs that match your profile, either nationally or in your region. Because one of the things we ask for is zip code. So let's imagine that your profile says you should be in IT support. We'll just pull down through APIs the jobs in your area that are IT support, and you can apply for those jobs. So that's a third thing. I do think that's amazing. It's pretty cool. It sounds just in there.
I'm glad you do, because there's a button here that says that it's amazing. So
I'm curious when you do that, like the not amazing thing, but you probably will do that later when I say something.
Well, yeah, if that's when Ryan.
Only when I talk, Steve. You're the amazing.
Ryan, did you say something? That's generally how that works. Go ahead, Ryan. You have any questions?
No, I was just gonna dig a little bit on Steve's point about just this idea that you're not talking about 18 to 24-year-olds, which is where most people in this space are talking. So just unpack that a little bit more. I mean, why aren't you focused on that group?
Well, I mean, because if you think about this, the needs out there across this current labor market system, it's folks, when we started, those who have been laid off or displaced because of COVID, right? Those who are even to this day, either they're unemployed or they're underemployed. So there's a swath of America that's working 3 gig jobs, right? There's a swath of America that's still working in retail. There's a swath of America that is frustrated with their job because they're not getting the right pay and benefits. That is a population of 20, 30 million strong that are not necessarily 18 to 24-year-olds. Now, it's important to serve that population. I'll be honest, because honestly, the sooner that you can touch someone with information, the easier it is for them to take action. But there is a huge swath of Americans that are 25 to 65 that are looking for something better. And I think we do a decent job of offering up options for those individuals for them to take that action. And the last thing I'll say is that the last sort of the 4 things we do is we support, right? So we have support services. For example, we have a scholarship fund, in large part to the generosity of the Charles Code community, that provides $1,000 scholarship for folks to de-risk. One of the major barriers for adults to take an action, it's actually cash. Let's be honest with ourselves, or cash equivalents. So if you're a mom and you have to pay for childcare, if you can't get childcare, you can't take the training program. And so we want to de-risk, right, some of those things through a scholarship fund. And then we also offer coaching and mentoring services. Because again, sometimes people just need a guide, a hand, a support. We're not telling them what to do, but we're offering these sort of support services that help make it easier for people to take an action. And again, we strive towards doing the best we can. And a large swath, in fact, the major swath of our population, our data says, are those who are between 25 to 55, because those are the folks that have been really hurt, right, through the COVID economy. And for me personally, the thing I think about a lot is this idea of like a K-shaped recovery. Like, you can't see my hands, but if you think about, honestly, some folks have done better because during the COVID, and a lot of folks that we have are on the downward slope of the K-shaped recovery. I think both Ryan and I think about how do we take folks who may be on the downward slope and put them on the upward slope. And that's what we're designed to do at scale, using technology. And I'll say again, working with our coalition partners like Charles Cope and others as a collective, right, to try to solve a problem which honestly people have been trying to solve for decades since the war on poverty. And we hope that we can be at least a small piece of trying to solve that problem.
Yeah, it's well said. What you got all the thoughts swirling around in my head, and usually there's not a lot going on up in my head. So this is a welcome change. right? Because usually it's just dead air, but I got a lot of thoughts today. And one of the things that I'm really curious about is what people want to skill up for.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like, you know, even today, the inflation's up like 7.5% or some ridiculous number. People are losing jobs. The COVID economy, as you said, people have lost their jobs in the K shape. It's so true the way you say it, because some have done better. Some industries have grown, you know, online retail and, you know, you look at just retail, online retail has exploded, but, you know, on ground retail has died. And how do people choose something that's going to future proof them against an economy and a future that's kind of uncertain? What is the post COVID economy look like, and what skills do I need to have to succeed in that economy? So what are students choosing when they skill up?
It's a great question, Joe. I will say it at the outset. One of our secret sauces is we identify jobs that actually are what I call the future of work type jobs, right? So the type of jobs that 20 years from now will still be around, whether they be IT support or something in the healthcare industry. So just as a baseline, right, the jobs and the programs we surface are those jobs that really are career sustaining, no matter what industry or labor market you're in. So I think that's part of our secret sauce. Specifically, what people are looking for, they're looking for stuff in the IT space. So when we do our Google Analytics, because we can see this, they click on, hey, IT support. It's the one because it has obviously career opportunities. There's typically higher wages, things of that sort. So like the IT support, junior developer type jobs, I think are probably the most pronounced. I would say second, like the healthcare industry. Now, some of the jobs don't pay a lot, but there are some that do. And so the healthcare industry is growing, it's burgeoning. People know that it'll be around for a long time. Things like nurse assistant is fairly high value for folks. So like that healthcare industry is probably second. And then third, I just looked at our metrics a couple of days ago. This idea of like remote jobs, remote work, has come up to the fore quite a bit. And a lot of what people are looking for are remote jobs, remote work, things of that sort. And we surface those opportunities. Things like customer service representative. There are a lot of these jobs that actually pay really well with employers that not only provide livable wages, but there are opportunities to upskill, right? To go from a customer sales worker to a manager, et cetera. And so you can upskill within the company. But I think that the most important thing that I think workers are looking for is they want stability, right? No matter what job they get, they want career options. And they just don't have either the ability or the information at hand to make the right choices. And I think our goal is to simplify the process for them, to de-risk barriers, and to provide information options with support that can take them to that next level, with jobs and careers and support that actually are the jobs that provide stability and career, right? Again, those jobs I mentioned before. Because otherwise, like, what the heck are we doing? What I don't want to do is what happened in 2008. Like I live in New York City. In 2008, after Lehman Brothers collapsed, right? The economy went to crap, excuse my language. 5 years later, even though the rest of us did a whole lot better, the workers who we care about were doing just as bad, right? I don't want that same situation, right? Holy cow. I don't want that same situation post-COVID. Like I want a scenario where workers are doing better 5 years post-COVID than the folks in 5 years after Lehman Brothers collapsed. So hopefully, again, we are part of that ecosystem to do that. There are lots of challenges around this, I will admit, but it's a reason why we exist in many ways to try to solve for some of those challenges.
Yeah, Ryan, if you want to jump in, but I want to say one of the things that's standing out from what you're saying, Steve, I've heard a couple times is the de-risking, the concept of de-risk, and that's really becoming more and more, I don't know, clear. There's a lot of clarity around what the risks are, how higher education in general, university partners, workplace, people who deliver workplace trainings, that the de-risking piece is really important if you want to engage today's adult learner, because they are just a lot smarter but a lot more jaded in a way
Indeed.
about how they choose. What do you think about that?
I agree wholeheartedly. Maybe even someone from the city, even Ryan, who said this, like, one of the things that we want to do is we want to help people doubt their own self-doubt, right? And I always find that line really interesting because in people's heads, they've been burned once or twice, right? Burn me once, what are they, right? It's just, they've been burned, right? They've been frustrated. And when you have that mentality, it just sort of seeps in, and then they have doubt. So how can we relieve, right, some of that self-doubt? And I think a lot of that is around providing the right information, right, the right tools and the resources and the supports to help sort of folks to doubt their own self-doubt, and to create the right. Let's be honest, right? If people want a career that pays X amount of dollars, we have the ability to do that some of the stuff, right? So we open up the opportunities in the spigot for folks to help sort of doubt their own self-doubt. And then there's a reality of like, let's be honest with ourselves. Like the population we're trying to help, there are real barriers, right? The cost of food has gone up by 10%. The price of gas has gone up by 20%. I don't have money to take a training program, right? It's going to cost me $1,000 to take 3 months out of my life. What the heck do I do, right? Hence scholarship funds, right? Maybe we can't cover all the costs, or we can't lower the time from 3 months to a month, but we can provide something. We can offer a coach for you, right? To help walk you through the process of what it really means to get a job. We can do the resume stuff. All these things that people don't have the time, energy to do. Again, we can help to some ways de-risk, right, some of those things, and let them focus on what really matters, right? Which is taking the training program, doing the resume, searching for the jobs, right? Let them do what they have to do, and let us take away as much as we can the things that provide doubt or provide real challenges to them, whether they be behavioral challenges they may have just because they've been burned, or real challenges, sometimes just straight up cash, which make it difficult for them to take actions that we want. That is what we want. That's why we exist, right? To help remove some of that self-doubt.
Hey, Steve, this is, and Joe, these questions, these points are just so crucial. I want to hone in on a part of this because I think it's what makes SkillUp so unique among the current innovators in this space. And again, I know everyone knows this, but we are so proud and honored to support, just to be a part of this coalition and learn from you all. But one thing that really stands out, it's this idea that you meet the learners where they are. That's a part of it. But then I think the more, maybe even more powerful and more unique, and frankly, when you think of transforming the status quo, this is where everyone goes, is this idea that you help students learn about who they are before or as they develop the pathway. And I wondered if you could just comment on that, because that aspect of learning about aptitudes, learning more about yourself is I think one of the biggest pieces missing from the current system. It's what sets everyone up for failure. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Steve, about just the unique nature of that for your product.
Right, it's such a good question. I will be very honest. We're not the only game in town, right, that helps try to uplift it. There are amazing organizations that do this. I would say a lot of them focus on the skills piece of it, right? And that's actually really important. And we do some of that, right? We connect to training providers that teach you the skills, right, to be able to do something. Crucially important. But in order to actually get those skills, I think sometimes you have to remove the mindsets, if you will, that prevent someone from taking action in the first place. And I think it's like the scales come down, right? There are scales in front of your eyes, and those scales are real, and they're real because 13 years ago, you were burned from Lehman, and then you worked as a gig driver, and you're still working as a gig driver, and things are no better. So the scales have developed in front of your eyes. And when someone comes to even when we market to them, right, our idea of marketing, it's not really about skills. It's about language to take an action. It's about, hey, we're here to support. It's not about, hey, let's get a skill set for you to become a coder, right? That's important, but that's not what's going to drive action. Right. I think what's going to drive action, we are here, we're your friends, right? We're here to support. We do this together, right? Things like that. That's how we market. When they come to our site, it's a similar experience. Like, we're here to support and work together. We ask a few questions, right, to get that profile I mentioned earlier. Those questions are behavioral based. They're not skills based. Questions like, how do you like to work, right? You like to work indoors or outdoors? You like to work with a team or by yourself? These like behavioral questions, right, then drive the pathways of the jobs that I mentioned, because at the end of the day, you can get the skill set. Like, there are lots of places you can get skills, but it's hard. But in order to get the skills, you have to take that action. That's a really hard first step. And then the other part of it is that even when you get a job, it's not just about the skills. It's about teamwork and working with others and things of that sort. And again, that's a behavioral issue. And that's equally, if not more important, at least I think, than the skills-based piece of it, because a lot of folks do skills, and that's great. I don't think a lot of people focus on like the behavior or the bottom up, the individual things of that sort, because you need people to take an action. And that's the hardest thing to do, is someone to take an action when they live in a world of either fear, doubt, or inertia. It's just really, really hard. That's what we try to unlock.
Yeah, it's so powerful. And just one more question, then I'll kick it back to Joe on this idea of ways in which the SkillUp approach is so innovative. You mentioned it at the top of the conversation, but just this idea of coalition and partnership. What you really are in a lot of ways unique that way. What are an example or two of where partnership has made all the difference, just given that you've brought so many different groups to the table to work on this project with you?
Yeah, it's a great. Well, first of all, our partnership has been transformative for SkillUp. So thank you, Ryan and team. I'll give you.
Promise I wasn't fishing there, Steve. I promise. No, I mean it. What are other examples?
So I'll give you one example.
Yikes!
God, I love that yikes thing. I need that yikes thing, by the way.
The yikes button is, I have to say, it's my favorite. It is my favorite button.
So let me share one that we're doing now, and one that we're going to do, which I think will be transformative. So so there's a group that's a fantastic one called social finance. Social finance plays in the world of career impact bonds, which is basically a different talent financing mechanism where you offer students basically a loan package. And when you get a job, you pay back. And it's transformed some of the industry around workforce. So I mentioned the scholarship fund before. We needed a partner that could do all the administrative and the fiscal arrangements and the vetting of providers that would be part of the fund, et cetera. And social finance was our hand-in partner on that. And we would not be able to have raised the money or have actually implemented the scholarship fund if it wasn't for the infrastructure and the backbone that social finance already had, because they were doing some stuff around talent financing anyway. And that was a game changer. It would have taken us a year, right, to figure it out, because we're a small nonprofit that doesn't have that infrastructure. And we've given out $1.5 million of scholarship funds to Americans across the country, in large part, right, because of Charles Koch. But in addition to, we have this back-end infrastructure that allows us to do it seamlessly, quickly, and with integrity. So that's a beautiful partnership, right? The second one, which I'm actually really excited about, so there's another new organization called 110, which I think Ryan knows, and maybe Joe, you know as well.
I do.
They've got a lot of press. It's the idea of lifting 1 million Black Americans into high paying, fabulous. So one of the things SkillUp struggles with is how do we create continuity of care from the moment someone walks in our door, i.e. goes to the site, to the time someone gets a job. And where we sort of not fall off, but where we end is where we end sort of halfway through the journey. So if they come to us and we change their behaviors and they take an action, let's imagine they go to a training provider or they apply for a job. For the most part, we often don't know what happens to them, right? Because they've left our website, right? And so they're off into a different experience. Now we do have 40,000 emails and we can follow up with folks. We've had 700,000 new users come to our site. So for most of them, we don't have any insights of what happens to them. Now, if we can take 110 has built a back-end employer platform where employers that they work with to hire these 1 million Black Americans have posted their jobs on the back-end platform. What we're talking about is integrating our front-end platform with their back-end platform so that we'll actually know whether someone gets a job. But much more important is that we will be able to follow the journey of a worker from an Instagram post all the way on their career path, ultimately to applying for a job or getting a job. And then we can offer support services no matter where they are in that journey, right? So let's imagine that they've gone to a training provider and they're looking for work, but they need help with a network connection, or they need a resume building. We would have the ability to offer that because we now have insights, because we've connected to 110's backend employer platform, which we don't have the insights to do now. That's a game changer, right, in this universe. Because again, you can just offer more support in real time because you know where the worker is. And I'm so excited by this because this solves a huge problem, right, for workers and workforce partners. Is how do we create this continuity of care from the front end to the back end to ensure that we're offering all the services people need across the entire spectrum, from Instagram post to a job. There are so many things that we can offer support with, and if we can integrate our two platforms, we'll be able to actually offer support anywhere across that journey. So that's another example to me of an integration with a coalition partner that we're really, really excited about.
Hey, everybody, head over to www.edupexperience.com, our website, where you're going to find all of the episodes that we've recorded categorized so that you can ensure that you're spending your time listening to the podcasts that are most important to you. You're going to see the reviews of our podcasts, the shows in our network, our partners, and a section on starter episodes. If you're new to the EdUp experience, listen to those starter episodes and get a feel for how the podcast has evolved over time and our impact in the world. www.edupexperience.com. Yeah, so Steve, I want to play a game.
Sure.
Because, that's just what we do here at the EdUp Experience. And, typically what I do with my guests is I ask them a question. First, I have to transition. Here's my transition. And by the way, the audience doesn't know this. Ryan and Steve do. I can't hear my own sound effects. They can hear it, but for some reason I cannot. So I've been hitting buttons randomly, hoping that they're at least somewhat timed well. I don't know if they are. But that was my. I think I hit my game show music button, didn't I?
You did, but I'm curious.
Okay,
I'm curious when you hit the wrong button. But that's a whole separate question.
Yeah, well, maybe I will. I'll just start hitting random ones.
In the
middle of your question, Steve, and see how I handle them. No, but I usually ask my guests what their entrance music is, like what's their favorite song to be introduced by. But I want to do something a little bit different today, so I hope you're not disappointed. But I want to play I want to play word association.
Sure.
And Ryan, I'm going to ask you to play here too. So I'm going to give you guys 3 things to consider, and I want your one word association with my word. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
All right, ready?
Yeah.
Here we go. The first word is degree.
Non-essential.
Empty.
See, there's power in this word association. I've been waiting to unveil this, by the way, and I thought, what better way to do it than today? Okay, here's your next one, Steve.
Yep.
Debt.
Unnecessary.
Man, this is killing me. I can't use one word. Can I use multiple words, Joe? I know I'm breaking this up, but to
you
me,
can do whatever you want. You're a co-host.
It's limiting. It pulls on too much of our focus, and it is a big problem, but it's not even beginning to scratch the surface when we think about the wasted human potential as a result of our current system. Does that mean, so it's a distraction? How's that?
Yeah, that's good. I was going to say this is not multiple word association.
Sorry.
I had to find. I had to find a reason.
Killed me.
I had to find a reason to hit the button too. Last one, 2 words. As I make fun of Ryan, I'm going to give you 2 words for the last one. Higher education, Steve.
Give me a second to think about this one.
See, I got to come up with a Jeopardy music button too.
Calcified.
Rigid.
See, look at the insights that we can have from just one word association. Higher ed word association is now synonymous with the EdUp experience. Nobody else does this. We're going to continue doing it. It's fun. The one that stuck out for me the most was degree, and the way you guys talked about that. And I think this works right into our conversation. It's a conversation that we've been having on the EdUp experience. Ryan, we had it with you. It's about degree. It's about the requirements that higher ed has for degrees, whether they have value in the marketplace of higher education. It's funny because I started a new job. I'm the senior vice president now at Lindenwood University. And one of the things that we're talking about here as we get into the online space more through our initiative, Lindenwood Global, is higher ed's really a marketplace. Students can go wherever they want and get whatever they want whenever they want it. So how do you differentiate in that type of market? And how do you take something that has a requirement of time and make it valuable when there are alternatives out there that have a whole lot less time that get you skills that you can go on and get a job with? And the consumer, the student, is getting a lot more varied and a lot more specific about what they want. And so, Steve, I wonder for you, as you have students, you're growing rapidly, you have more and more students coming in. Are they going, you know what, I don't want to go back to school, I just need the skills? Or is it enhancement to the education they already have? How are you seeing them come in? Is it despair because they got laid off and they need something quick? Like, talk to me about the student types that you see.
Well, actually, it's such a good question. It's actually all of those prototypes. But if I had to pick one, I'm going to do it's a 35-year-old parent with 2 kids that's working either multiple jobs or in a job that they don't like, and they're looking to skill into a new experience. To me, that's like the prototype of sort of who we serve, someone who doesn't have a college degree, and therefore are stuck because some of the jobs that he or she wants require a college degree, right? Which is unnecessary. So I think we're seeing all types of stripes, but in the current labor marketplace, unemployment's like, what, 4%? So, folks have jobs, but they're searching for something better for themselves and their family. They're searching, right? And if we can take the scales away as best we can and recognize that there are other opportunities to be able to take a 1-month certification program, right? That therefore you can then get this another job that actually has a career, and then we can provide support services and connection to a training provider with actually a real job with a real employer that has those opportunities. That is why is sort of why we exist. Because I feel like that is most of America right now, at least the ones that we're trying to serve. So hopefully that gives you a sense of what I think is our typical SkillUp user.
That's great, Ryan. I'll kick it over to you.
Yeah, Steve, you're in a position to kind of see a lot of what's going on in this space, and all 3 of us represent organizations that are working hard to drive change and do it in a way that helps the traditional system transform, while at the same time creating new models. I mean, what do you think? What do you see that's missing in the broader movement to really transform post-secondary ed?
Oh gosh,
what are we still getting wrong?
It's so many ways to answer this question. So let me try to answer the question without really answering a question, but I'm going to try to answer your question at the same time. So at the end of the day, people need a job, right? That is a career sustaining, all that kind of stuff. And I think, Ryan, you and I have talked about this. So, CKF is a supporter and a partner of SHRM around human resources. So if I think, and this is a struggle that I have with employers, whether they be big and small, is they are, I used the word calcified before. There's a system and a process that's been built into the pipeline of how people hire. And that pipeline and process is really hard to move or to revamp because either inertia has kicked in or certain incentives have kicked in, et cetera. And unless we can remove some of those incentive barriers and those system structures, we'll never be able to get people into kind of jobs from which they're sort of self-sustaining. So I think on the employee, it's a whole lot of work being done in the employer space. I will also say that if I ran Google, let's imagine, I would want some proof points of success. That is, if SkillUp, let's imagine, and we actually have partnerships with people. If we're sending people your way, Google as a company, you would want to make sure the people we're sending are just as good as they could get through traditional means, that is higher from college, because they put energy and effort behind it. And so in some ways, I think we as a system have to prove our worth, right, to employers, but the employers also have to reduce some of the barriers and make it really hard, right, for folks to come into those systems. On the higher education, we can talk forever about higher education, right? To me, it's a similar sort of calcified system. And I think it filters down, like if you're in middle school and high school, that's where often people need to be taking action. If I think about, I was just having this conversation the other day with someone. If you're a high school sophomore, junior, right, and you come from a community and that is perhaps a low community, there are three options for you right now. There's college, which you probably maybe can't afford. There's getting a low wage job, which often is the case. It doesn't have it, or there's a military. That's it. Those are your options if you're a high school sophomore and junior. Okay, that's fine, right? But what about, is there a fourth option, right? Is there a career option? Is there something that could be different, right, than what that actually can provide for sustaining careers and wages? I think that's what SkillUp is trying to solve for. Now, listen, if a kid can go to college, I think that's great. But the college system has to accommodate, if you will. And the systems with the higher education space, for the most part, don't accommodate. And how parents and students think, they think, in fact, we surveyed this 6 months ago. We asked a bunch of high school students, like, how do you think about career? The first thing they say is, we need to go to college. That's the first thing they say. And we need a 4-year degree. That's the image they have in their head. And that image is reinforced by the college system that says, hey, we need you, and therefore we need your dollars, because it's a system, right? We need to start, at least in my mind, sort of break away from that system, right? And what other options can we do? But we're struggling against a $50 billion industry, right? That has its way of doing business that is trying to entice people to take an action and get people into debt. And there's not as much momentum and energy, right, behind something else that might be a career. And I think that's part of what we're trying to figure out is, what are some of the other options? But this calcified, bureaucratic, very wealthy system often makes it difficult to crack through the barriers. And so that's my long-winded way of trying to answer your question, Ryan, which I don't think was great, but it's what's sort of top of mind for me.
I think it was pretty darn good. I got one more, Joe, and then I'll give it back to you. So
Keep going.
The other way that SkillUp, I think, has been, just from our observation, really innovative is this idea of honing in locally and building coalitions at a local level. I wondered if you wanted to just share with us an example or two of that, where it's worked or maybe where it's not, working, or whatever you think is. That seems to be unique about your approach. I thought we should highlight it and see if you could share with us what you think is working there.
Yeah, it's a great question. So we actually run a national program, as I said, I think you guys. But we also run 8 regional programs across America. I won't list all the regions, but what's interesting is that they're all across America, East Coast, West Coast, and they're rural and urban. And so the insight that I have learned, right, as we think about regional plays, is region, right? And so one of the regions we have is Appalachian, Ohio, of all places. And I've learned quite a bit about what it means to uplift workers in Appalachian, Ohio, as opposed to New York City, which is another side of ours, which is a very, very different dynamic on how you market and how you sell and how you engage. And how you engage in Appalachian, Ohio it's very much, it's word of mouth, it's face-to-face, it's newspapers, it's door-to-door. That's what's really worked. And that's what we're doing. And I think that's what we're pushing. And it's important for us to understand that America is different, right? What happens in Appalachian, Ohio is very different than what happens in New York or Philadelphia or other places. And we need to accommodate that local community. And therefore, we work with local partners on the ground who know the communities really well, because who the heck is SkillUp? Like, who are you guys? Well, I don't know you, but I know this nonprofit in Ohio. I trust that nonprofit, and that nonprofit is going to help SkillUp, right? Sort of get its job done. And so we need to meet the needs locally across different communities, and we can't do it one way. One size definitely does not fit all on this one. And so thanks for bringing it up, Ryan. And we've had a lot of success in Ohio to date, mainly in part because of Joe Burrow. I can say this. Joe Burrow is one of our spokespersons. I'm hoping to have him say on Sunday after we win Super Bowl, don't go to Disneyland, but go to SkillUp. But I haven't had Disney say yes to that yet. I've been trying.
100%.
I've been trying, but it hasn't quite worked yet. Joe's got other things on his mind right now. But all to say, the regional stuff actually really does matter. So thank you for asking.
Yeah, that was a pretty good move to bring Joe Burrow on before the playoffs, my friend.
That was luck and serendipity. But you know what? So be it. We'll take the luck and serendipity.
I think people who are good at investments are just good at investments, no matter what area they're playing in. So I guess you get that credit, Steve.
All right.
We ask. By the way, Ryan, you're coming with some absolute fire on those questions, my friend. Well done. Ryan's getting more comfortable on the mic too. He's a killer thought leader in the space, and he's got some of the most important questions out there, Ryan. So I really appreciate your insights with our guest today. And we ask the same two questions to close out every episode. Steve, number one, although Ryan's questions were fantastic, I'm sure there's one he forgot to ask you. And what would that be? Anything that you want to talk about, say, plug, website, events, anything at all about SkillUp Coalition that we need to know? And secondly, what do you see as the future of higher education and skills-based learning?
All right, let me start with the first one first about SkillUp. What I want people to know about SkillUp is the thing that is most important for us by far is what I call be the worker. That is, we cannot do anything well unless we understand the pain points and the barrier. I mentioned the word barriers a lot, and the hopes and dreams, right, of the workers that we're trying to help. That is first and foremost in what we do. It's first and foremost in how we market, how we do our web experience, how we engage employers in how to hire folks of this population. If we can't do that well, I think we'll fail as an organization. First and foremost, I want people to know we're about being the worker. Right? This is how we call it. What do I want to change in the higher education system? Gosh, a lot of things.
This is the magic wand question, right? The future.
Listen. I will. Let me say this. There is value in higher education. So let's not. What I want is a different business model. If I can say that. I want, because a lot of it drives around, there's a business model aspect to the higher education system, right? And it's tried and true in many ways. I want someone to really disrupt that business model, right? Whether it's Coursera, whether it's edX, and there are a lot of folks trying to think about this space, right? In a way that if I'm a student, there's a benefit cost analysis to me where I say it's going to cost me X to go to college or to whatever it is, right? Or it's going to cost me X minus Y to do something else. And I'm going to have the same result in the back end, which is the same experience and same job in the back as I would spending X thousands of dollars to go to college. I don't think I've yet seen at a scalable level, right, a business model that can compete, right, with the press and the talking words that come out of the higher education system. And so it hasn't really changed much. It's just it's only changed on the margins. I want to see a killer app, if I can say that, on a business model that can compete at that level. Because then you're onto something where once you have a killer app, other killer apps come along, and then you can start really disrupting, because then it hits their bottom line. And I don't think it's hit many universities' bottom line. And that's when they need to adjust right back to the killer app in a way that becomes sort of a cycle effect. So that would be my one thought is we need a killer app business model to disrupt the higher education system.
Well, I'd say that was a pretty fun episode, wouldn't you, Ryan?
Absolutely.
Steve, we hope you had a good EdUp experience today.
I loved it. I loved it. It was fantastic. I can't think of two better folks to have a conversation with than the two of you guys.
Well, we appreciate you, of course. My guest co-host today, you know him, you love him. His name is Ryan Stowers. He's executive director at the Charles Koch Foundation.
Thanks,
He always
Joe.
gets always a standing ovation for Ryan. And our guest today, the esteemed, he was a bit, I'm just going to say on overall a little bit better than you, Ryan, on the word association piece, because he didn't go into a dissertation on one of those questions. So I think the win goes to Steve today. He's executive director at SkillUp Coalition. He's an amazing man doing amazing things. Steve, thank you so much. It's been an honor to talk with you today.
Likewise, Joe and Ryan. It's a real pleasure. Thank you much for having us on.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've just EdUp'd.